Good evening, Internet. Welcome back to another night of whatever this is. Um, I've been watching May Leet's new channel, Arsenic Dealer, and she's just been talking about her books. So I kind of wanted to do the same thing with my books. I've been published for quite a long time. I still have the occasional person say that they didn't realize I was an author. So I just kind of wanted to make something talking about my books. First off, we've got In the Shadows of My Mind. I believe that this is still in the original printing on Amazon. This was one that I wrote I started it in the final year of undergrad. So I was in my senior year. I graduated in 3 years. I don't know if I've ever told this story. But I had enough credits when I came in that I basically had a semester under my belt, and then I took summer classes. So I got to graduate in 3 years. The one thing that was probably going to hold me back was Spanish. I needed like extra Spanish credits in order to get my minor in Spanish. And I ended up like taking double classes my senior year, which was not the recommended course, but it was something that I could do to get through college in 3 years. So I ended up graduating a year early, which was good for me because I got to graduate with some of my friends, and we all got to walk the stage together, which was really nice. So I started In the Shadows of My Mind senior year. We were reading a lot of Southern fiction. I had a Southern fiction class, and so we were reading a lot of that. And then one of my classes was actually a British literature class. When I was reading that with my the dean of my college, and then I think that there was another one where I was reading early American literature, and so I had all of these different different influences of a genealogy of different literary traditions that I was kind of grappling with at the time. And In the Shadows of My Mind was kind of a mishmash of all of those different influences. So things like All the King's Men, things like The Scarlet Letter, things like Alistair Gray's, what is it called? There's a movie of it now. Poor Things. It was the female Frankenstein. And I was reading through all of these different things about monoculture and how evil rich people are, and these groups of friends that kind of form in unlikely ways in different communities, and the way that different communities kind of form in different ways. And then I kind of like put all of this together, and it was at a time where people with multiple personality disorder, or what is now called dissociative identity disorder, were kind of villainized in films. There were a lot of films coming out at the time where there would be a murderer, or there would be some kind of villain or something like that. And the reason for their villainy was because they have multiple personality disorder. And so I really wanted to write something that was the opposite of that, something that was humanizing, something that was more focused on people with multiple personality disorder, people with dissociative identity disorder. They're still people, right? They have this condition, but it's not something that makes them a villain. And so I wanted to write that, and that was kind of like the impetus for making the main character a secondary personality to the main body that he's in. So the way that the story is told is from the secondary personality. The main character is in the back seat, kind of watching his body do things that he doesn't necessarily like or agree with. He's actually the person, the primary personality, is kind of an angry person, has a lot of trauma, isn't really fulfilled, and all of this is kind of coming to the surface following his mother's death and him returning to his hometown. in order to like catch up with all of the people the week of her funeral. Um, so that's kind of like the wraparound story. There's a lot more that goes into it. I really enjoyed like making a bunch of different characters and giving each of the different characters personalities and things that they kind of want and need, and kind of like pitting them against each other and trying to make them all like individuals, not just like characters. So they embody like different personalities, they embody different philosophies, and making sure that they didn't merge together in any kind of way that's harmful. I'm not really proud of it anymore. At the time that I wrote it, I was kind of proud of the way I had done things. Unfortunately, I fell into like kind of a bad trope because I didn't read a lot of fiction around LGBTQ people. A lot of the communities, or a lot of the people in the communities in this novel, are LGBTQ. And two of them get killed by a rich person. At the time, my goal was kind of to show the danger of like rich people scapegoating other people, because one of the rich people in this book is trying to scapegoat this lesbian artist in a way that would like push away suspicion, or push away aggravation, or push away like a class unity against him and this other rich person. And that's kind of harmful. The fact that he ends up hurting these two people is what's ultimately harmful. If I could go back and like rewrite it, I would probably choose a different route to show like the mechanisms of the rich like scapegoating onto LGBTQ people and then ending up hurting the LGBTQ people. It kind of falls into the barrier gaze trope. And that's not something that I want to like engage in. If I could redo that, I would probably choose a different way to do it. I still stand by the sentiment. I still think that like rich people engaging in these culture war tactics in order to cover their own ass remains true on a large degree. But at the same time, I think that my approach to it could have been better. This was supposed to be the first in a series of 4 books. I wrote the drafts for the second and third book, and I wrote the first section of the 4th book. It was supposed to be a quartet, but that never ended up coming to fruition. This book never had the sales to go for a sequel. If it had sold better, if I had hit the sales margins, it probably could have gotten the second book at least, but it never got that. I have the draft of the second book. I'm still quite proud of that one. I think that it's probably the one that I'm most proud of having written as far as this series goes. The third one was kind of a stealth Hazelwood quartet book. It was actually like a record of my time in China. It had some fictional embellishments, but it was kind of a notation of the experiences that I had there, the kind of people that I saw there, the kind of things that I would see like happening at expat bars, the kind of power plays that I would see from Chinese business owners, things like that and of that nature. And then it wouldn't really tie into the actual Hazelwood Quartet until the last section, when it would be revealed that the character Alan from the Hazelwood series was the main character in China. And there would be like these interludes throughout the story that it would indicate that it was him. There would be, it was written in 4 sections. So the introduction and then the interludes between the sections would all be from Alan Silverman's point of view and his experiences after returning from China. But the main character would actually be Carl Moriarty. And it wouldn't be directly stated until the last section that Carl Moriarty was Alan Silverman. So that was kind of my plan for it. I really liked the section that I wrote for the fourth book, but about the time that I had finished that was around the time that my father passed away. And I kind of like, it's hard to write when you have like psychological stuff going on. I don't know if you guys watch David Lynch or think about David Lynch as an artist, but he has this quote from when he was making Inland Empire that a lot of people think that artists are at their best when they have a lot of like pressure or they have a lot of like pain, but in reality, even like the smallest inconvenience, like the way that your shirt feels on a certain day, can kind of throw you off of your game. And so I really enjoyed the part that I had written, and then I never really went back to it after I had gotten the first section out. It was going to be in 5 sections. I think that Shadows was 2 sections. Mobile Army of Metaphors was 3 sections. Sweetwater was 4 sections. And then the last one was going to be 5 sections. And that was going to kind of be like a progressively getting longer, progressively getting more complex, and kind of progressively getting deeper as a result. Yeah. So that's my story of the Hazelwood Quartet. Following the Hazelwood Quartet, I did Red Hats and Black Masks. This was a National Novel Writing Month novel. It was written the year that Donald Trump got elected. It was a lot of stuff that I had kind of been thinking about and worrying about as far as organizing and anti-fascist action and anti-racist action, and kind of the again, what really like interests me about writing novels is coming up with these communities and these characters and their backstories and their philosophies and what makes them tick behind the scenes. This is actually the second printing. If you can find the first printing, I actually prefer that one. So when I was writing it for National Novel Writing Month, one of my friends in Louisville and a fellow organizer with the IWW, JP Wright, he was looking at getting a small press off the ground. And so he was looking for like, what can I publish on this? And I just reached out to him and I was like, would you like Red Hats and Black Masks? And he was like, I would be honored if you would like give me this and let me publish it. And so I gave it to him and he set up his small press and he got everything kind of rolling with the printings. And I liked it. I liked the cover. It was mostly solid red with like a black border. And then the black, the white text on the black box was very simple, but it was very kind of like refined. And I really appreciated it. And I really enjoyed that like style of book at the time. When his small press kind of stopped printing, when he had to give it up, he was facing money troubles and then he moved to Germany, I think. And then eventually moved back. And then I haven't kept up with him the last like year or so. He cut off his Patreon suddenly, and I don't know where he's at right now. JP, if you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. But when his press stopped printing, was about the time that Jay Carrico from Tennessee was trying to start up their own small press. And so I had followed them on Facebook for a little while through their what's it called? Congressional run. They were an anarchist running for Congress. And I was like, that's hilarious. So they started to put their small press together and I submitted the second printing of Red Hats and Black Masks and they really liked it. And so they published it on Guillotine Press. So if you can find the long steel rail press printing, I highly recommend that one. I don't know if you guys can see this. The text in this one it's formatted very weird. And like, I like the story, but it's also like, it doesn't have the same book feel as the first one. There's a lot of like space at the bottom. It doesn't look very good. But yeah, That one was very much inspired by, I was reading a lot of Sinclair at the time. I read a lot of Vonnegut for my master's program. It was very much inspired by like old pulpy, both science fiction and crime novels, and a lot of like a lot of literature that focuses on like movement and action and more setting things up and then paying them off. And it was less about like the overall structure. Like when I wrote In the Shadows of My Mind, I was very careful about the structure and having everything rhyme and making sure that the internal structure itself was like a character in the book. And Red Hats and Black Masks, it was much more about movement and free movement, setting up the characters and then like finding out later what happens to them. I wrote the beginning of a sequel for Red Hats and Black Masks, Red Hats and Rosas Negras, I believe. And it was about a Black Rose member in California. So Red Hats and Black Masks takes place in Las Vegas, and it is like very Vegas focused. And then Rosas Negras was going to be the sequel where it was a different protagonist, but the protagonist from Red Hats and Black Masks would come back, and they would kind of like butt heads at first, but then they would eventually grow into like partners and kind of develop their own crew and their own methods, and they would still butt heads as far as like what was his name? Rosario. Rosario would butt heads as far as like, I want to do things my way. And Avkast would like butt heads as far as I want to do things my way, but they would both be working towards the same goal, which is tracking fascists, tracking Nazis, and making sure that they're not successful in whatever it is they're planning. So that was Red Hats and Black Masks. If I were more prolific, I probably could have turned it into a series, but I've not been very prolific the past few years. I also have a third one that you can read for free online. Let me see if I can pull this one up here. So November 1st, 2021. This was the last draft of a novel that I've finished, and this is completely free. You can go to write.as, AWM Rights, The Manner of Doctor, and it'll just pull up. Navigating the site is a little tricky, but if you want to read it, you can. This is called The Manner of Dr. Lyman. This one is a like, what's it called? This one is an actual cosmic horror novel. This is, my inspiration for this was John Carpenter's The Thing meets Bloodborne. And you can probably like, read that in the first chapter. Like these are the inspirations that are going into this. The idea was to have these characters that I just locked up in this manor for about a week and see what would come from it. And during this week where they're trapped in this manor for these reasons in order to save their loved ones, things would start happening around them. And we would get to see what they were made of while these things were happening. And so I wrote it. Again, this was a National Novel Writing Month novel. I wrote the 50,000 pages or the 50,000 words in 1 month. And then I went back and I cut out like the last few chapters because I was just typing and I wasn't actually writing anything. So I cut out the last couple chapters. So as it ends is where the intentional ending is, even though it doesn't hit 50,000 words in its current form. So that is The Manner of Dr. Lyman. And then currently I am working on this, which is called Analog Apathy. This one is kind of, it starts off with my frustrations over what's happening to National Novel Writing Month, and then it kind of evolves from there. I haven't kept up with it like I wanted to. I was going to be writing like at least one chapter a week, and then I haven't kept up with it, but I am planning to continue it. If you would like to keep up with something that I'm currently working on, this is where you can find it, write.as/AWM Rights. I believe that a lot of like, federated I believe that a lot of federated writing sites will let you like subscribe to this so you can keep up with new chapters, but I don't actually know which ones will do that and which ones won't. But if you ever want to like click on my site, see what I'm working on, this is kind of where you'll find my current writings is write.as AWM writes. So that's currently my plan as I continue writing, is that when I'm inspired, when I feel like I can write, so I'm just going to jot a chapter down on write.as. If you're interested in it, that's something that you can like look up and find and keep up with. So yeah, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all for joining me for another night of whatever this is. I love you. I'll see you in the next video. Good night.